Captain Elena Vasquez had been trained for first contact her entire life, but nothing prepared her for what she found when humanity's deepest space probe reached the Kepler system, an alien species actively attempting self-annihilation. The Etheri were brilliant. Their technology was centuries ahead of humanity's. Their civilization spanned 3 star systems. By every measurable standard, they were superior in almost every way. And they were methodically destroying themselves. When Elena's team managed to establish communication, the Etheri's response was immediate and desperate: leave. Leave now. Do not let us near your world. It took weeks of careful negotiation before the Etheri agreed to explain. What they revealed was horrifying. The Etheri had encountered 17 other civilizations across the galaxy. 17. And of those 17, 16 had destroyed the Etheri without hesitation the moment contact was established. Not out of malice, but out of survival instinct. Each species viewed other intelligences as existential threats. Each believed that coexistence was impossible, that one species would inevitably dominate the other. The Etheri had learned a terrible lesson: intelligence itself was a disease. The more advanced a civilization became, the more ruthlessly it eliminated competition. The universe, they had discovered, wasn't large enough for multiple intelligent species to coexist peacefully. So the Etheri had decided to spare humanity from that knowledge. They were attempting to commit civilizational suicide before humanity could develop the technology to threaten them. They believed that if they destroyed themselves, humanity would never know the Etheri had existed. They would develop in isolation, never knowing that intelligence inevitably led to conflict, never experiencing the existential terror of discovering they weren't alone. "We are doing you a mercy," the Etheri explained. "Let us die in peace, and you can live in ignorance of what awaits you." Elena listened to their reasoning, and for a moment, she understood their despair. They had encountered overwhelming evidence that the universe was fundamentally hostile, that consciousness itself was a curse that led inevitably to violence. But then she asked a question that changed everything: what if you're wrong? The Etheri fell silent. Elena transmitted humanity's history to them, not the sanitized version, but the full, messy, complicated reality. She showed them humanity's capacity for violence, yes. But she also showed them something else: humanity's capacity for redemption. Their wars, but also their reconciliations. Their cruelty, but also their compassion. Their ability to commit atrocities, balanced by their ability to forgive them. Most importantly, she showed them human art. Music composed by the suffering. Poetry written by the grieving. Stories told by the survivors. Humanity's entire civilization was built on the foundation of turning pain into meaning, trauma into wisdom, violence into compassion. "You've been looking at this wrong," Elena explained. "You encountered 16 civilizations that were at war with themselves. Civilizations so focused on dominance that they couldn't imagine coexistence. But you're assuming that's inevitable. What if it's not?" She transmitted something the Etheri hadn't expected: a request. Not for technology or resources, but for partnership. For the chance to prove that 2 intelligent species could coexist, could learn from each other, could build something together rather than destroy each other. The Etheri hesitated. Their fear was ancient, carved into their civilization by centuries of terrible contact. But something in humanity's offer resonated with them, a quality the other 16 species hadn't possessed. Hope. The Etheri had encountered civilizations that were stronger, smarter, more advanced. But they had never encountered a species that was so fundamentally optimistic about the possibility of coexistence. Even facing the evidence of 16 failed contacts, humanity still believed in connection. The Etheri stopped their self-destruction program. What followed was unprecedented: 2 species learning to trust each other despite every logical reason not to. It wasn't easy. There were conflicts, misunderstandings, moments when old fears threatened to destroy everything. But humanity and the Etheri discovered something revolutionary. They weren't natural enemies. They were natural partners. Years later, when humanity encountered the third species, they brought the Etheri with them. And when that species asked the same desperate question, "Why would you trust us?" humanity had a simple answer. Because someone trusted us first. The pattern spread. Species that had been isolated, terrified, certain of inevitable conflict began to connect. The universe that had seemed so fundamentally hostile transformed into something unexpected, a community of conscious beings choosing coexistence despite their fears. Elena stood on the observation deck, watching Etheri and human vessels flying in formation. She thought about what the Etheri had almost done, erasing themselves to spare others from knowledge of their existence. Instead, they had become humanity's first teacher in the most important lesson the universe could teach. Connection was possible. Trust was possible. And the price of that possibility was worth far more than the safety of comfortable ignorance.